I raised my siblings like their dad since I was 12, but when I started my own family, my parents turned on me and abandoned me during kidney failure. Hey everyone, I'm a 40-year-old guy, and I come from a really big family. I'm the second oldest of 9 kids. My sister Jane is just a year ahead of me, and after us, there's a 6-year gap before the next sibling came along. After that, my mom had a new baby pretty much every 2 or 3 years. Since Jane and I were the oldest, we basically became built-in babysitters and housekeepers. People, especially adults, often lumped us together, calling us Jane and Opie and the kids, like we weren't even part of the kid group anymore. It felt like we were seen more as junior parents than actual children. We were homeschooled, which meant we were always at home. Every morning, part of my routine was to get up early, make breakfast for everyone, then get the younger kids started with their schoolwork or whatever activity they had lined up. Only after that would I get to my own studies. Jane was more of a night owl, so she slept in and handled nighttime baby duty because, yeah, there was always a baby. Between the two of us, we did most of the housework. We'd switch off doing dishes or laundry, and there was always a mountain of it. I handled what you'd call the guy stuff, like mowing the lawn and taking out the trash. As I got older, I started assigning some of those chores to my younger brothers, but I was still the one responsible for making sure everything got done. Once I got my driver's license, I basically became the family chauffeur. I'd run errands and take my siblings to playdates, appointments, or whatever else needed doing. I can't even count how many times I was the one hauling kids around town. I'd even tuck them into bed at night and tell them stories. At the time, all of that felt normal to me. But looking back, I wasn't just a big brother, I was more like a second dad. Jane and I did get some freedom during our teenage years, though. As long as the chores were done, we could go out with friends. We didn't have cell phones, so we just let our parents know we were heading out, and as long as we were back by the next morning, they didn't care. I moved out at 20, but I still spent a lot of time at my parents' place. There was almost always one sibling hanging around at my house, too. One of my brothers, JJ, basically moved in with me at 14 because he and our mom just didn't get along. When he was 17 and got into a car accident, he called me not dad because I was the one who always handled emergencies. All through those years, my parents constantly reminded Jane and me how important it was for us to help out because they were so busy with ministry. I can't even tell you how many times I had to drop everything I was doing just because one of them needed to counsel someone from church. Sorry, I know this is getting long. I just wanted to paint a clear picture of what my childhood looked like before I move on. I hadn't really dated much, but when I was 25, I met Anne. We fell hard and fast for each other, and within a year, we were married. My younger siblings adored her, she's an amazing cook and loves hosting people, so our place quickly became the family hangout. They even started calling her Mama Anne, and they still do to this day. Anne and I have been married 15 years now and have 2 kids of our own. But my mom and Jane didn't take to Anne right away. Jane's gotten better over time, but my mom still doesn't get along with her. I never really understood why, until recently. I think they saw Anne as the one who took me away. Once I got married and started my own family, I wasn't at my parents' beck and call anymore. My dad liked Anne in the beginning, but over the years, that changed. He started making passive-aggressive comments about responsibility. One time, he actually called me about one of my younger siblings who had argued with mom and said, "You need to fix your brother's attitude and make him apologize." A few years back, Anne and I finally laid down some boundaries. We told my parents we weren't going to raise or discipline their kids. Our house would always be open to my siblings, but we weren't going to be used as backup parents anymore. Needless to say, that didn't go over well. About a year ago, Anne injured her foot and couldn't walk for a while. Just as she was getting better, I was diagnosed with kidney disease, which later turned into full-blown kidney failure. I've had multiple surgeries and have another one coming up soon. It's been a really tough year. Through all of that, my parents not only refused to help, they made things harder. They'd promised to watch our kids and then cancel at the last minute because something came up with their ministry work. Meanwhile, my sister-in-law in another state had a baby, and my mom's been living with her for 6 weeks helping out. My dad's been going out there every weekend too. That hurt more than I expected. My mom couldn't spare a single night when our youngest was born, but now she's playing full-time grandma somewhere else. Anyway, sorry again for the long post. I guess I just needed to get all of that off my chest. This past weekend, I was talking with another one of my sisters. I told her how I don't understand why mom and dad treat me so differently, not just from the younger kids, but even from Jane. And that's when it hit me, they're still mad at me for getting married and leaving. I think they feel abandoned because I stopped helping raise their kids. It was kind of a bittersweet moment. Part of me felt relieved to finally understand it, but part of me was just sad. I've got another surgery coming up soon, and honestly, I wish I had a parent I could lean on or talk to about it. But I don't. I don't really feel like I have parents anymore, just people I used to co-parent my siblings with. Update 1. Last night I opened up to and about all this. I said something like, I think my parents resent me for starting my own family and not being around to help them anymore. And I think you've been trying to gently tell me that for years, but I was too stubborn to see it. We were in bed when I said it, and she just leaned over, patted my head, and said, "You are so pretty." I cracked up. I laughed for a solid 10 minutes. It was such a good emotional release. So many of you have said she sounds amazing, and honestly, she really is. I can't even begin to describe how much I love that woman. As for Jane, she ended up getting married and starting her own family about 2 years after I did. We actually had a falling out for a few years and didn't talk. We're on okay terms now, but not super close. That fallout was mostly about religion. Jane is extremely religious, like our parents, while I'm more laid back about it. And I do go to church, but it's not the center of our lives the way it is for them. All of my younger siblings are adults now, the youngest is 22. Sadly, the second youngest passed away a few years back, so there are 8 of us left. I'm really close with all of them. They still come over to hang out, and they're amazing aunts and uncles to my kids. Even Jane agrees that how our parents treated me this past year was messed up. And while I am disappointed they didn't help, the truth is, I didn't need them. Anne and I are surrounded by great friends and loving family. Our parents live far away now, but our siblings still step up when they can. We feel incredibly supported. As part of my kidney treatment, I've been seeing a therapist, and she's been amazing. She's helped me start adjusting to life with a chronic illness. I'm not sure if she's the right person to help me unpack all the stuff with my parents, but I'll ask if she can recommend someone. If not, I'll wait until after my next surgery. Right now, that's what I need to focus on. When I say my parents won't help, I don't mean they flat out refuse. It's more that they offer, sometimes eagerly, and then either flake at the last minute or change the plan so much that it ends up creating more stress for Anne and me than if they hadn't offered at all. A few months ago, Anne was feeling really sick, and my mom said she'd pick up our kids from school to help out. Sounds simple enough, but she kept switching things up and making it overly complicated. Long story short, our youngest ended up being left alone for a while, and he got scared. That was the last straw for me. After that, I had a serious talk with my parents. I told them how disappointed I was and explained that they were actually making things harder for me during a time when I needed to be focusing on my health. I told them they were no longer allowed to take our kids anywhere, couldn't just drop by whenever they felt like it, and they weren't even allowed to offer help because my mom doesn't know how to take no for an answer. She'll push and push until I cave. They were upset about the boundaries, but all 7 of my siblings backed me up completely. They supported my decision, and since then, my parents have respected the lines we've drawn. Going no contact. A lot of people have suggested I just cut them off entirely. But I'm not ready for that. I still love my parents even if they haven't always been the best at being parents. And my kids love them, too. I don't want to take that away. When they do show up, they're good grandparents. I don't believe my parents are bad people. I think they had this dream of a huge family and a big ministry, and somewhere along the way, they didn't realize how much they leaned on Jane and me to make that happen. I've brought it up with them before how messed up it was to pile so much on us as kids, and to their credit, they have apologized. But still, it's a lot. Blasting them at church. Some folks have said I should go to their church and tell everyone how they've treated me. But that wouldn't change anything. You don't know this church. They just praise my parents for sacrificing for the Lord and putting ministry above all else. That community worships suffering. It's not worth it. So that's where I'm at. My next surgery is coming up in less than 2 weeks, and for now, I'm putting all the parent stuff on the back burner. I'll decide what, if anything, I want to do later. I just want to say thank you again to everyone who's commented. It's helped me process a lot of feelings I didn't even know I was carrying. Update 2. I really appreciate all the people who reached out to wish me a smooth recovery. I had my surgery last week, and honestly, it's going better than I expected. All the surgeries and treatments I had over the past year felt like they were just keeping me afloat. But this time, this kidney transplant, it actually feels like I'm getting a shot at having a normal life again. The recovery has been painful and difficult, but I was ready for that. So compared to what I imagined, it hasn't been nearly as bad. No complaints. And just a side note, Anne always says she doesn't get enough credit for being funny. So the fact that so many of you laughed at her "you're so pretty" line? She's been writing that high for days. She said, "I like these Reddit people." And honestly, I get it. This whole thread started because I was chatting with one of my sisters, I'll call her 6 because I'm out of name ideas, and she's following this thread and will hate that nickname. 6 had just gotten into it with our parents, and I was telling her how and I had set firm boundaries and how freeing it was. I encouraged her to do the same. She did, and it went about as badly as you'd expect. That ended up sparking more conversations between siblings. Both 5 and 9 also decided to set their own boundaries. And one by one, others started opening up about how hurt they were about how our parents treated me while I was sick. Even Jane, my older sister, called me the day before my surgery to check in, and we ended up having a really deep conversation about our childhood. Jane and I haven't been close for years, but that phone call felt like a turning point. It was the first time we talked to each other as adults about what we went through growing up. She's been in therapy for a while, and she told me that sometimes her therapist will stop her mid-story and say, "Jane, you just casually glossed over something seriously messed up, let's unpack that." For a long time, I blamed Jane for how she treated me when we were kids. But I'm starting to see that she was just a kid, too, trying to survive a high-pressure environment and desperate for any kind of control. And unfortunately, sometimes I was the one she tried to control. I have a lot more grace for her now. We've been texting more these past few weeks. It's not perfect, but it's progress. My parents did come visit after my surgery, but we didn't talk about any of the deeper family stuff. My siblings tell me that mom and dad are really struggling with the new boundaries. I hope someday they wake up and realize that all 8 of their kids are upset for a reason and choose to grow from that, but I'm not holding my breath. So far, they've just blamed the devil for the rift. And I have decided to stick with low contact and keep our boundaries firm. With a family this big, cutting my parents off completely would get messy fast. There'd be awkward run-ins and forced events, and honestly, we'd rather not deal with all that. Plus, we've talked to our kids, and they still want a relationship with their grandparents. I don't expect my parents to change. But I do believe they'll at least respect the boundaries we've drawn. More importantly, my mindset has shifted. I don't feel like I owe them anything anymore. Any relationship we continue to have with them is for the sake of our family, not because they've earned it. Oh, and one last thing. I got a recommendation for a really good family therapist, and I've got my first appointment set for next month. Update 3. I've tried writing this next update a bunch of times, but I either get lost in my own thoughts or I end up with a 10-page ramble about my health. So I'm just gonna power through and hope it comes out right. Shortly after I wrote my first post, I had my kidney transplant in May 2023. Recovery took center stage in my life for a while, but that's not really what this update is about, so I'll keep it brief. The first few months after the transplant went great. I bounced back faster than anyone expected. But then I caught a stupid virus. It wasn't a big deal at first, but it caused enough complications that my body started to reject the new kidney. Things got scary fast. I spent most of the 2024 holiday season in and out of the hospital. The treatments were intense, but they worked. My body eventually accepted the kidney, and the virus is under control now. It'll be a lifelong thing managing my health, taking meds, regular checkups, but I finally feel stable again. Honestly, I haven't felt this good since before I first got sick. Back to Jane for a minute, like I mentioned, we hadn't talked much over the years. But after my first post, she reached out. We started having some real conversations about our upbringing. Both of us had recently learned about something called parentification, basically when a kid is forced into the role of a parent, and it hit hard. We realized we'd both lived it. We trauma bonded. Another term I didn't even know until recently. In late 2023, Jane and her family came into town and stayed for a few weeks. That visit gave us a real chance to sit down and connect. I used to judge her pretty harshly for the way she acted growing up, but I've come to understand she was under the same pressure I was. She was a teenager trying to raise a bunch of siblings while still trying to be a kid herself. She needed control over anything, and sometimes, that meant taking it out on me. There were a lot of tears. A lot of apologies. And, surprisingly, a lot of healing. I'll be honest, there were plenty of times I wasn't the kindest to Jane either. We both messed up. But somehow, through all this, we've become closer than we've ever been. These days, we talk a couple of times a month. And this summer, my family's planning a trip to visit hers. Our kids are thrilled about it too, they've really bonded. Now, this next part's tougher. It's about my parents. That first post I made came after some major family drama came to a head. It involved several of my siblings and had a lot to do with how absent and unhelpful our parents were while I was dealing with my kidney failure. Eventually, all of us got together and set clear, firm boundaries with them. At first, they didn't take it well. Someone once commented, "Sounds like you and your siblings are bullying your parents into becoming better people." As weird as it sounds, that might be the most accurate way to put it. Right before my surgery, I sat down for a very direct, planned conversation with my parents. I wasn't angry, I had actually written down the main points I wanted to bring up. I calmly walked through several real examples of how they hadn't just failed to help, but how they'd actively made things harder while I was seriously ill. I told them, honestly, that I didn't want or need their help anymore because I couldn't trust them to follow through. Something about that conversation, and the fact that all of us siblings were finally united on this, it made something click, especially with my dad. He didn't say much during that talk. He didn't argue, didn't make excuses, didn't try to push blame elsewhere. Over the next few months, they started texting once a week just to check in. If I was feeling up to it, I'd invite them over. And they'd come, just for short visits. A few times they offered to drop off meals, and when we accepted, they did exactly what they said they would. And if I said I wasn't up for a visit, they didn't push. It was all on my terms, and for the first time, they actually respected that. Gradually, things started to shift. I honestly think someone showed them my original post. Most of my siblings knew about it, and based on how some things changed after it went viral, I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe seeing hundreds of strangers calling out their behavior helped knock something loose. And here's the wild part, they quit their church. That completely shocked all of us. Then my mom started calling my siblings one by one, asking for specific ways she had let each of them down. And here's the kicker, she listened. Really listened. No defensiveness. No deflecting. Just silence and hearing us out. At some point that year, the last of the younger siblings moved out. That shifted the dynamic a lot. The parent-child relationship finally started to feel like it could exist without strings attached. I can't pinpoint exactly when things turned around, but somewhere during 2023, things started improving. My parents began making a real effort to spend time with my kids and show up for their activities. I saw the effort and acknowledged it. I even had a conversation with them where I said, if you want to actually connect with my kids, you have to figure out what they enjoy and join them in that, not just expect them to tag along to stuff you like. To their credit, they listened. My dad found a hobby that lined up with something my oldest was into, and now the two of them have totally gone down the rabbit hole with it. My mom and our youngest discovered this local restaurant they both love, and now they have regular outings there. It's not perfect, but it feels genuine, and they're building something new that actually seems healthy. Ann and I are still being cautious. We're hopeful, but we're keeping our guard up. As for me, my relationship with them has shifted in a different way. Emotionally, I've kind of detached. When I was a teenager, I read Ender's Game. There's this theme in the book where Ender is set up by the adults around him to always be on his own. He has to survive and win battles without backup, because he knows no one's coming to help. That hit home for me. I've spent most of my life with that exact feeling, no safety net, no adult stepping in. Just me. And later, Anne. Thankfully, over time, I've built a solid support system, friends, siblings, people I can rely on. That's enough for me. I'm honestly happy that my kids are finally getting decent grandparents. But me? I've accepted that I'll probably never have that kind of open, vulnerable parent-child relationship with them. I'll never go to them with the hard stuff. That's reserved for my wife and a few close friends, and I'm lucky to have even that, because I know a lot of people don't. Anyway, I think I'll stop here before I start rambling too much. Thanks again to everyone who's reached out with support, kind words, and encouragement. It's meant more than you know.